Canada's cabinet ministers are right now at their annual retreat discussing ways, amongst other things, to protect against foreign interference in our upcoming federal election. It is not just Russia they need to be concerned about. There are new worries coming from China, Iran, and North Korea. Joining us this morning is Christian Leuprecht. He's a political science professor at the Royal Military College of Canada and Queen's University. Good to have you with us.
My pleasure.
China, Iran, North Korea, and Russia. What about these countries have officials concerned about their potential influence to foreign elections?
Yeah, so we think about a threat as the combination of capability and intent. And all four of these countries have shown capabilities to interfere, and they all have intent to interfere. Now, that differs by country. So Russia tends to do things more clandestinely. China can be quite overt in the way it deals with countries and with its diaspora, for instance. North Korea obviously doesn't have as many operatives on the ground, so it tends to work more remotely. And Iran has a wide range of capabilities that they have been able to show that they are willing to deploy in order to assert their particular interests. And so all of these countries have made efforts to be active, not just in the United States, but across the Western democratic world to get their particular views across and run influence and strategic communications operations, both online and actively on the ground.
We'll get into how they do that in just a moment. But first of all, why would these countries specifically want to influence the outcome of our election?
Sure, I think that's a good question. If you think about Canada geostrategically, we remain America's most important partner. And so the close relationship that we have with the United States, if you can influence Canada on issues of trade, for instance, just think about NAFTA, if you can influence Canada in terms of issues of strategic security and defense, where we have this extremely close partnership and have had for over 75 years. But also if you think of Canada as, of course, a country in the G7, Canada as a significant member of NATO that has headquarters capability and has shown considerable leadership in that regard. This is a country that likes to say that we punch above our weight. It's also a country that is very connected internationally as a result of our diaspora, and also precisely because of those diasporas, foreign countries have an opportunity to try to influence those diasporas themselves to try to become active in Canadian politics. And we have seen all these countries try to meddle, to influence politicians, to be active in the cybersphere and whatnot.
Foreign countries don't just influence directly through hacking ballot boxes. That sort of seems old school. They are also using sophisticated disinformation campaigns, or what's been called fake news. An investigation by BuzzFeed recently found that in the last 3 months of the 2016 U.S. election, fake news articles generated 8.7 million reactions on Facebook. That's just Facebook, compared to 7.4 million generated by actual news articles. Is Canada more or less susceptible to these kinds of campaigns?
Sure, we know that psychologically people tend to gravitate towards the extremes. So that's what explains the discrepancy in those particular numbers. And we have seen countries run very active influence operations. So for instance, Russia tried to run a very aggressive influence operation after we deployed to Latvia as a framework nation in the enhanced forward presence. But that operation was resoundingly unsuccessful in actually getting uptake among the Canadian population. And so I think we need to understand a lot more what makes our democratic systems and our democratic populations resilient. And one of the advantages that we do have, yes, the adversary can propagate freely in a free society their views, but of course our populations are also more used to having to navigate different types of viewpoints and then forging their own particular viewpoints. So just because you're reading something doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to buy into that particular perspective. But one of the challenges of the internet, of course, that it's sort of self-fulfilling, that people tend to read content that reinforces the particular views that they already hold. And so it's important for us to think about what as a democracy we can do to safeguard the integrity of our institutions and of those means that propagate particular viewpoints, including a fair and unbiased and objective media as we have in this country.
Christian, thanks so much.
It's been my pleasure.